Mr. Bieber, how do you see the need for EU politicians to participate in Macedonia election campaigns?
Well, I think it's become normal that EU politicians are engaged in campaigns across Southeastern Europe, the Western Balkans. They've been supporting candidates of different sides in Macedonia, in Serbia, but also in Croatia. And this is in a certain way quite normal to send messages to the voters. And of course, especially as EU integration is an important topic. So in that sense, I would see it as a rather normal occurrence that especially politicians from the European party family support their allies in the country.
Do you think that this is because the election campaigns are poor, or the citizens do not have enough trust in our politicians?
Well, I think we've seen this in the past as well, that we've had members of the European People's Party supporting VMRO-DPMNE and members of the Social Democrats and Progressives supporting SDSM. And I think it's less about trust in politicians in the country. It's more signaling whether or not these are partners at the European level, whether they are connected at the European level. But of course, these are supports for allies, so you have to take them always with a grain of salt. I mean, I remember in 2016 in the pre-election campaign, we had Austrian Foreign Minister Sebastian Kurz supporting VMRO-DPMNE in the election campaign when it was quite clear that there were quite a number of scandals which the party was responsible for, and he was criticized in Austria for this electoral support. So we have to be careful and not assume that this is something which means that the politicians of the EU who support parties are necessarily aware or critical enough towards the situation in the country itself.
Can we say that this move of Macedonian politicians is because of their insecurity?
Well, I think it's offering advertisement. It's basically a way to signal to the voter that they are pro-European and that they have European support. Now, some of it might be genuine support and some of it might be just rhetoric. I mean, I don't think it's a sign of insecurity. I mean, we also have this, of course, in EU elections, that sometimes we have this visible support. And of course, for a country which is aspiring to join the European Union, I can see that this is an obvious strategy in which one can showcase one's commitment to the European path. But again, as I said, this is advertisement and this is support by allies. One has to, of course, always look critically whether that is actually true in the case of each individual party.
As a Balkan expert, what is your assessment of the influence of foreigners in deciding by the citizens who vote? Is there any positive feedback at all?
Positive feedback of what? Sorry, I didn't get that first part.
Of this influence of foreigners in deciding to the citizens who vote?
Well, I think it certainly might be interpreted as a sign that the party is respectable internationally. I don't think this is the decisive element in elections. Usually, this is not the core message, and I think citizens in North Macedonia are very aware that the EU integration is a long process and not one which is going to happen overnight, and one where, of course, there's been much achieved in recent years, and we have very good news this year with the beginning of accession talks. But I don't think that the statement of one politician or a few politicians from the EU are decisive in all of that, because again, all major parties can get these statements. So in that sense, they can even each other out, because both the governing party and the opposition have their allies in Europe, and they will support them, sometimes correctly so, sometimes a bit uncritical. But I don't see that this is going to change voters' perception. I would be surprised if this is decisive at the end of the day.
It seems that the whole Balkans is depending on the support of EU politicians during the elections. Is it because of an early democracy that needs confirmation of success?
Well, I think, we have some politicians like Aleksandar Vučić in Serbia, or Milo Đukanović in Montenegro, or Nikola Gruevski in the past in North Macedonia, who were not exactly, I would say, perfect Democrats. In fact, they had serious troubles when it came to rule of law and democracy. So they, of course, used the support by European parties to, in a certain way, whitewash their problems. So supportive statements from their allies in Europe help them to disguise the fact that they are in fact not that democratic. So I think we have to distinguish between the regular support among Democrats for each other and the support which European party families have sometimes given to less than democratic partners in the Balkans, and they are using it as a way to really cover up the problems of democracy they have domestically, and then they can say, well, listen, if we have politicians from EU member states endorsing us, how can we be bad guys? How can we be undemocratic? And so this is what we've seen in the case of elections in Serbia recently, and this is something which we've also seen in the past in North Macedonia.